All right. Tonight's lesson is one of the fruit of the Spirit. We'll go to Matthew at chapter number 5, and we'll commence reading at verse number 8. Matthew chapter 5, verse number 8. And it simply reads, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Out of all those words, what do you think um, the most important of those words are? Yeah. Tamara's sitting here next to me. She says pure. Anybody else? Out of all those words that was just read, what is the word that you think is the word that sticks out? You can do it either way. I asked for one word, but if you have multiple words, that'll work too. Heart. Heart. Anybody else? Chelsea God. Anybody else? So one thing is for sure is that the word blessed is because it has been featured, and I believe it's sandwiched in the middle of a series of words of blesseds. So you have blessed, and this particular order would be the heart, and like Tamara said, the pure heart. And remember, these are what some scholars would say, right, might argue are uh, what's the word I want to use? Hypothesis statements. These are considered hypothesis statements. What do you mean by that? Um, in science, you propose a hypothesis. The hypothesis by my science teacher tells me it's a statement that starts with if, sandwiched in with then, and because. If I do this, then the reaction would be this because. And so I believe the Sermon of the Mount is not only a hypothesis statement, but these statements have been as a conclusion statement as well. Because in science, when you write the hypothesis, you have to make a conclusion that my hypothesis is correct. So Jesus is ultimately saying, if you have a pure heart, then you shall see God. If you have a pure heart, then you shall see God. Now watch this. We're dealing with the pure heart. Now, those of us who are older may even have in our libraries dictionaries that have been printed before the year of 2000. Any dictionary that is printed before 2000 has the definition for white and black uh, in its original American sequence. Remember, we have four pillars of our church, and so you know, pastor's going to deal with heritage somewhere or the other. In a word that was used to describe white was pure. And the word that was used to describe black was dark and wicked. And so in accordance to race relations, you also saw that come up. So that's why I said if you have a definition between that a dictionary between that age, there was some folks that that argue to change the definition in Webster. And so in the Old English, it says, blessed are the pure in heart. So that means that the old definition for pure was white, free of stain, free of blemish, free of malice. So he said, if you have a uncontaminated heart, then you shall see God. That's the condition. Now, let me ask you, what's the opposite of a pure heart? Hope said an ugly heart. Anybody else? Unclean. An unclean heart. I thought you said ugly. I said that'll work too. Anybody have a definition of a unpure heart? Okay. The Bible describes an unclean heart as a wicked heart. A wicked heart. If you get your, if at CBSR there was an old deacon by the name of London. London would beat on the table at this point when I said this. If it got good, he'd bang on the table and say, it's Bible study. So since it's Bible study, go to the book of Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah, at chapter number 17, and verse number 5. Excuse me, verse number 9. Anybody want to read that for me?
The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?
Go ahead and get 10 too.
I, the Lord, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings.
So God is saying through the prophet Jeremiah that our heart is deceitful. Now, wait a minute, Lord. Didn't you make me? Did you make my heart? So how could, this is the question I'm posing for us tonight. If our heart is deceitful, how can we have a pure one in this deceitful? Do we have defective hearts? Okay, Hope says he gave us free will.
I think it's in knowing and believing in him and that we get reborn and refreshed and rewashed and renewed.
Okay. Anybody else? How does God say we have to have a pure heart, but then Jeremiah says we have to have that our heart is just above all? Well, I'll take a stab. I think somebody else is trying to talk. Somebody else trying to talk? Okay. Our hearts, the Bible says that when a man is born of a woman, but a few days, and they are full of trouble. And so if we're born into sin, shapen in iniquity, that our hearts become hardened in malice because of the things and the experiences that we've dealt with. I think last week we talked about showing mercy, and Sister Farr and I both shared stories about uh, having to experience, having to have forgiveness. But our hearts can be made to bleed by what others have done to us or what we have seen done to others. If you remember on Sunday morning, when I was growing up as a kid, we would wake up at around 7:15. TD Jakes was on BET. 7:30, Paul Morton was on. And then at 8 o'clock, they would have Feed the Children. And Mavis Staple would do a concert on feeding the children, that whole 30-minute segment. And if you watch that, and then G. Patterson at 8:30, and then Bobby Jones at 9. But if you watched that 8 o'clock hour and you didn't feel nothing, if you saw those hungry babies, not to say that you had $9.99 a week to sponsor